We've been waiting to find out, especially here in LA, is there going to be a massive strike of the crews that work on like basically everything that goes on in terms of TV and film production? And we are not there yet, but it has now been authorized. Negotiations continue, but you should know that nearly 90% of IATSE's union membership from 36 different local union branches cast electronic ballots on this question. Each local approved the measure with at least 96%. And so if you're wondering, well, what do the actual workers think? It really couldn't be much clearer than it was. There was massive engagement on the question and it was massively popular. Now, again, there is still going to be negotiations. It might or might not actually happen, but this was a major obstacle in the way of it, potentially, if it had been voted down. And so let's see, Union President Matthew Loeb can now call for a work stoppage, though the group is returning to the bargaining table before actually pulling the trigger on that. This union alone represents more than 60,000 set builders, costume designers, video engineers, and other behind the scenes workers. The union president said the members have spoken loud and clear. This vote is about the quality of life as well as the health and safety of those who work in the film and television industry. Our people have basic human needs like time for meal breaks, adequate sleep, and a weekend. For those at the bottom of the pay scale, they deserve nothing less than a living wage. And multiple issues are mentioned there, but of course, money is a big one, especially considering what the world and LA has been like for the past year with the pandemic, with the economic toll of that. But these are not new problems. Salaries for off-camera personnel have not grown commensurate with those of actors and writers, according to workers who contend that the rush to produce new programs has deprived them of time with their families, sleep, and even bathroom breaks. And a lot of the people involved in the union, regular workers, have been talking about their experiences. You can find these things on YouTube as well as TikTok. There are great Instagram accounts that compile these sorts of things. But there's concerns about literally like crashing their cars because they're going home so late that they don't have time. They haven't slept. They're about to fall asleep in their cars. Like these are serious concerns. And this vote, whether it results in a work stoppage or not, is at least a strong sign to the industry that they mean what they're saying and they want the compensation they feel that they deserve. Brett, what are your thoughts?
There are these kinds of unions run the town in terms of by the town, I mean like Hollywood itself, the people in it make these productions possible. And my great grandfather, Johnny Lee, was a grip back in the day, like
really
all the way. Yeah, way back in the day, like, these are the kinds of things that, protect workers against the instincts of those who at every turn have tried to kind of get around it. And what's very frustrating to me is when you see these giant corporations that have used traditionally, there's like these moments, some guy took me aside like a while back when I was on a Sony lot. And he was like, the reason that and this might be an exaggeration, who knows, but like the reason that shows are digital now is because that was a way to get around a union issue. If it was on film, there was like a film shortage and all this stuff, and people stood in solidarity of that. And then they moved to digital because they were like, well, technically, you're not a filmmaker if you're on a digital cassette tape. And that same thing has extended to digital distribution. Yeah. And these are the kinds of things that happen and frequently yield, yes, weird moments like Sex and the City season 6A and 6B, but very tangible gains for those who have been taken advantage of incrementally, bit by bit over the years. And then suddenly they look around and say like, I'm not getting paid for digital. And then especially in a time when there's a pandemic and there's definitely more leverage that they have because Hollywood is so far behind in production. And these folks have had to do without for so long. It is now a very difficult time and a very pivotal time. And I think both sides have kind of gauged the situation and said like, yes, it is that time to fight a little harder. And so that's kind of what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's what even more pressure will do. And that is what has happened to basically everyone, but this industry is not immune during this time. The economic concerns are even worse. By the way, someone had asked, I mentioned the union, I didn't say what it stood for. It's the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. And personally, I would like to see this as a time for reckoning, like that obviously, lifeblood of basically all of these productions, definitely important too. But Like we've heard for years about how abused animation studios are and things like that. Stunt workers. There's a lot of concerns that have just sort of been ignored for literally decades in this industry. I would love to see a broader reckoning too. There's a lot of support being shown, obviously, by celebrities for this. I'll also point out though, like how much time do we have? We have a little time. We have a minute. Okay, very briefly. So I'd been following Scarlett Johansson. Felt like she had been lied to basically by Marvel, and that look, the fact that leading actresses are not valued by their industries is a significant issue. I saw the resolution of that was that she ended up getting a $40 million settlement, which is certainly great for her. But when I saw that, I thought, man, there's a lot of people that work on those movies. That is a lot of additional money. Well, not to say that it's not earned; it did very well and everything. But when I saw it, I thought, man, the heads of these movies sure can make a lot of money.
But
anyway.
A lot of those dynamics hold true. Like that was about where the movie premiered and having line items in her contract saying films, theatrical premiere. What does that mean?
It's like the thing you said, yeah. 100%. Well, we're gonna be seeing. The negotiations are ongoing, but there could be a massive stoppage. I mean, you still constantly hear about what happened after the writers' strike. Like this would be even more significant. Basically everything would shut down, and we'll see.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.